What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL Transfer Talks video on the channel where we will be discussing all things to do with Game Week 11. Now, if we could get 100 likes on today's video, that would be absolutely sensational. But first things first, I want to start off by talking about that man right there, Mohamed Salah. It is now 2 returns in the last 2 games for Mohamed Salah. A goal against Aston Villa, a goal against Brentford, and I do believe a lot of people are going to start considering to actually buy Mohamed Salah because Liverpool do have a really good fixture run starting from Game Week 12 onwards. However, I'm here to tell you, don't do it. Now, of course, I'm no FPL expert. I gotta hold my hands up. You guys already know that. I'm looking like a real fraudulent FPL manager right now, so you might not want to listen. I will not want to listen to what I'm about to say. But honestly, in my opinion, I still believe Mohamed Salah is not that guy. I still believe Mohamed Salah is not worth the expensive 14.2 million price tag that he currently has at the moment, right? For me, he's not worth it. I wouldn't be fooled. I know he scored against Aston Villa, but let's be honest, Salah literally had that goal gifted to him on a plate. It's absolutely ridiculous. Emi Martinez gave him an early Christmas present. What was he thinking? I don't even know. But Mohamed Salah, outside of that goal that he scored, right, that was gifted to him, that was put on a plate, he didn't really look too threatening. He didn't really look like actually scoring. And let's be honest, he's not going to get goals gifted to him like that every single week, right? So for me, I still think Mohamed Salah is not worth going for. I know the fixtures are good. I'm not going to deny fixtures from Game Week 12 onwards are good. Obviously, in Game Week 11, it's a tough game against City away, so you're not really going to want it for that. But I know people are going to look at this juicy fixture run that Liverpool have, and they're going to be tempted to get Mohamed Salah, right? Because there's Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland at home, then Leeds away, then Brighton at home, and then, of course, he will go off to AFCON, right? So you look at these juicy fixtures, you look at Salah scoring 2 goals in his last 2 games, and you think, oh, yes, surely this has got to be the time where Salah just turns back into an absolute machine. But I just still think no. I still think it's not going to happen. And to be honest with you, he's just not the Liverpool attacker that I would go for, especially when you consider the price. Like, let's be honest, is Salah worth double the price, right? Is it worth paying double the money, right, for Salah over someone like Gakpo, for example, or for someone like Ekitike? Like, I'd much rather go for a player like Gakpo or Ekitike because they're much cheaper, right? And when they start, they also do offer good goal threat, in my opinion. Like, I don't think Salah offers much more amazing goal threat than someone like a Cody Gakpo when they both start, for example. So for me, if I wanted to cover the Liverpool attack, I'd just much rather go for a Gakpo or an Ekitike, because you can just do so much more with the money that you save by going for a Gakpo or going for an Ekitike as opposed to going for Mohamed Salah. For me, because we all agree, right, that we need Erling Haaland still, right? So if you do get Salah, you're looking at an Erling Haaland and a Mohamed Salah draft. I've been there before, and I'm not gonna lie, it really does affect your overall balance of the squad. So that's why for me, I just don't recommend it. I really don't. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. For me, Salah is still an easy avoid. I mean, let's have a look at some of the underlying data as well, and it's another reason why I just do think, Gakpo, for example, at his price point, is a better pick to go for in midfield over someone like Mohamed. Looking at the non-penalty expected goal involvement racked up so far this season, we can see Gakpo has some really strong data, to be fair to him. He's racked up the second highest non-pen expected goal involvement so far this season with 5.01. You look at the non-penalty expected goals as well. You can see Gakpo drops down a little bit more, but still he's up there, right, in the top 5 for non-pen expected goals racked up so far this season. You can see Salah is actually below Gakpo, but yet Salah is double the price that Gakpo is, which is absolutely ridiculous. And this is what I mean. When you look at the strikers, for example, right, we've looked at strikers' underlying data in the past, for example. You can see, like, Haaland, his underlying data is like so clear of everyone else. It's absolutely ridiculous. Haaland at the moment is given that value, right? He's given that value. He's proven to be worth the expensive 14.6 or 7 or however expensive. I don't even know how much Haaland is right now, but he's proven to be worth that expensive price tag, right? It's 14.8 million. So Erling Haaland, right, you're looking at the stats produced, looking at the eye test, looking at the underlying data, he's proven to be worth that money. And like I said, when you look at the underlying data for forwards, Haaland is so clear of everyone else. But yet when you look at the underlying data for midfielders, you can see Salah is competing against midfielders at half his price, right? So even that there sort of tells you that he's not really worth that money, which is why for me, again, I just don't think he's worth it, right? So yeah, good fixtures, but for me, he's just simply not worth that expensive price tag. I personally would say avoid Mohamed Salah. It's simple as that. Alright guys, so next up we do have Joao Pedro and Enzo Fernandez, and first things first, I want to start off by talking about Joao Pedro, this absolute troll. I cannot believe it. The very moment myself and a lot of other FPL managers finally decide to sell this absolute fraud Joao Pedro, what does he go and do? He goes and scores. He goes and gets a 9-pointer, and to be honest with you, us sellers, right, are very, very lucky, because he could have walked away with about a hat-trick from that game. He could have walked away with like 3 goals and 1 assist. It's absolutely ridiculous. For the first time in so long, he racked up a lot of big chances in that game against Spurs, and I just can't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was watching, right? I couldn't believe this was the very same player I owned, right, that did nothing, that stunk out the place week in, week out, not only for myself, but for many other FPL managers. But yeah, he produced some real strong underlying data as well against Spurs, and to be honest, I watched that game myself, and on the eye test I saw a player that was getting so many big chances. It was absolutely ridiculous. In that second half, towards the end of the game, I don't know how he didn't score. It was a brilliant save from Vicario, to be fair. I don't know how Gittins as well, my lord, what was that shot from Gittins? It was a great, pass from Joao Pedro, just put it on a plate for Gittins, who smashed it over the bar. There's so many scenarios in that Spurs game where Joao Pedro could have gotten another attack and return. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, his goal did come from very, very sloppy play from, I think, Van de Ven, who I don't really know what he was doing. It was a big mistake from the Spurs defense. Good tackle from Caicedo, and of course a good finish from Joao Pedro. But yeah, man, really interesting to see. I mean, he racked up 1.86 expected goals in that game against Spurs, which is ridiculous. I mean, let's dig a little bit deeper and have a look at, just some more underlying data from that game against Spurs. He racked up a total of 5 shots, right? And all 5 shots he had were inside the box. He got 3 big chances in that game. Played 90 minutes. Of course, he got the goals. So it's really good data. It's really what you want to see from your FPL players, right? You want to see your players getting into good goal scoring opportunities, and that's exactly what Joao Pedro did in that last game. Now that does sort of, it really does beg the question, is Joao Pedro a buy? Has Joao Pedro gone from an immediate sell to now a player that you should be buying now? I don't even know what to say, because it's an anomaly. It's an anomaly, right? Joao Pedro has not shown this level of threat throughout really the whole season, right? Especially in recent weeks, from like game week 5 all the way to game week 9. Joao Pedro did not look threatening whatsoever. He was a player that was not getting any shots, wasn't getting into good goal scoring opportunities. He failed the underlying data test. He failed the eye test. He just wasn't good, right? And now all of a sudden, you look at the last game against Spurs, and then you look at the next 2 games, Wolves at home, Burnley away, and he looks like a player that you want to buy. Now listen, if you've just sold him, I will say no, don't do it, man. Nah. You can't be doing that. For me, if you sold him, you've made your bed, you got to lie in it now. It is what it is. I wouldn't go back and buy him unless your team is like perfect. But let's be honest, most of us sold Joao Pedro for big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta, for example. So if you sold Joao Pedro for Mateta, would I sell Mateta and go back to Joao Pedro? Absolutely not, right? Absolutely not. It's such a weird one for me, because you know what? The thing is with Joao Pedro, he's a very inconsistent FPL pick. That's first and foremost. History tells us that Joao Pedro is an inconsistent FPL pick, and he goes through these moments. He has these moments. He has these little purple patches, right, where he does deliver. Now maybe this is the start of his purple patch, and maybe this is the start of his sort of streaky run that he likes to go on. We saw at the start of the season, right? He got 15 points against West Ham, 9 points against Fulham, 7 points against Brentford, all in a row. Then he blanked for about 5 games in a row, and now he scored against Spurs. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores against Wolves and he scores against Burnley, because this is the kind of player historically that Joao Pedro is in FPL. He's never really been this consistent FPL pick, but he has been a player where, like I said, he goes through these purple patches, and now I think with the next 2 games coming up, this could be his little streaky purple patch that he tends to go on. So yeah, I will say, look, it's such a weird one. Look, everyone's on their own path. Everyone's team structure is very, very different, but like I said, a lot of people last week sold Joao Pedro and bought big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. If you are an FPL manager that did that, like myself, I would not be selling Mateta and buying back Joao Pedro. So if that's you and that's your scenario, don't buy Joao Pedro. However, if you're playing like a free striker formation and you've already got Mateta, you've got Haaland, and maybe you've got like a Volta Molde, for example, then selling a Volta Molde and buying a Joao Pedro it could be a decent play. Look, also we do have Enzo Fernandez, and he is a player that I would say buy. I really have been impressed from what I've seen with Enzo Fernandez, especially on the eye test. Again, in the last game against Spurs, he looked really, really good. And whilst Cole Palmer is out of this team, the kind of role that Enzo Fernandez has in this Chelsea team is a much more free, attacking, box-crashing role where he will pick up really good spaces in and around the penalty box. He will create chances. He will get into good goal-scoring positions. I like him as a pick, right? So on the eye test for me, he passes it. But not only that, the underlying data for Enzo Fernandez this season has been really, really strong. For me, Enzo Fernandez, he does tick a lot of boxes. He's also got the potential of taking penalties as well. But he ticks the underlying data box. He ticks the eye test box. The fixtures coming up are really good for Chelsea. I think Enzo Fernandez is definitely a player that you want to buy. That is my personal opinion. I mean, look at the underlying data here. Looking at the non-pen expected goal involvement racked up so far this season, we can see Enzo Fernandez is top 3, right, which is really, really good. And you look at the non-penalty expected goals, you can see here Enzo Fernandez top 2 with 3.57 non-pen expected goals racked up so far this season, only behind Ismaila Sarr, and it is really, really close. I look at Enzo Fernandez as a real good option to go for, especially with the next 2 games, man. Wolves at home, Burnley away is arguably the best 2 fixtures you can get in the Premier League this season. So I like him as a pick a lot. So I also just wanted to speak on Moises Caicedo, because at the time of recording, he has been transferred in by 226,000 FPL managers, and he is currently the 3rd highest scoring midfielder in the game right now. Only Declan Rice and Anton Semenyo have more FPL points than Moises Caicedo so far this season. However, I'm going to be honest, even though Caicedo is the 3rd highest scoring midfielder in the game, I still think we should be looking to avoid Caicedo. I don't think you should be looking to buy him, and I know that might sound absolutely crazy. You guys on the other end of the screen watching this video probably thinking right now I'm waffling, probably thinking that I'm chatting absolute rubbish, but just hear me out for a second. Don't shoot the messenger, guys. I'm just gonna give my opinion, right? And personally, I just don't believe the rate at which Caicedo is getting these points is sustainable, because when you look a little bit deeper into it, right, when you look at the fact that Caicedo so far this season has started 9 Premier League games, right? 9 Premier League games started, and he got benched in 1 game against Nottingham Forest away from home. So in these 9 Premier League starts so far this season, right, he's got 3 goals and 1 assist. That's 4 attacking returns in 9 Premier League starts. That's getting an attack. That means, right, he's getting 1 attacking return at a rate of just under 50% of his games so far this season, right? He's almost 1 in 2 in terms of the rate at which he's getting a goal or an assist, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Caicedo isn't a player that typically gets a lot of goals and assists. I really do think he's outperforming, right, himself. And what I mean by that is also when you look at previous seasons, when you look at his goal tally and his assist tally in previous seasons, right, we can see that he's not really been a player that gets a lot of goals and assists. Like last season, for example, he only got 1 goal and 4 assists. In the season before that, he got 1 goal and 3 assists. In the season before that, he got 1 goal and 1 assist. So we can see here that Caicedo, typically speaking, doesn't get a lot of attacking returns. And so far already in the first 9 games, he's got 3 goals and 1 assist, right? And I just don't know how sustainable that is. Of course, when you look at a lot of goals that he scored so far this season as well, right, they've been long shots. And again, how sustainable is that? Now, I know you're going to say, but he gets defensive contributions. Yes, I do understand that. But the reason why Caicedo is doing so well is not because of the defensive contributions, right? It's because of the attacking returns. And in some games, he gets, attacking returns combined with DEFCON, which is really, really good because it helps with bonus as well. So it's all those things factored in together. But we have to realize, right, without these attacking returns, he probably wouldn't be getting bonus, right? And that's the thing for me. Like the reason he's getting these many points is not for DEFCON. It's for attacking returns. And because I don't believe the attacking returns is sustainable at this rate, that makes me believe I don't think he's the player to go for. That's my personal opinion. I'd much rather go for someone like an Enzo Fernandez, for example, right? And I know, again, like I said, a lot of you guys are probably going to disagree, but I just don't think it's sustainable. The underlying data is not great, but also when I watch Caicedo as well, he's not a player that gets an abundance of chances. He's not a midfielder that's picking up these great attacking spaces to score goals, that's getting loads of big chances created. He's not even a midfielder that really creates a lot of big chances, right? We know the kind of player that Caicedo is. So for me, when I look at that and I'm trying to position myself and put myself in the best place to get FPL points, right, and just predict for the future, right, because ultimately for me, just because he's getting the goals at this rate right now, it doesn't mean it's going to carry on like that for future game weeks. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I just don't believe, right, Caicedo is going to continue to get goals and assists at this rate. He's just not going to do it, in my opinion, right? So because of that, I don't believe he is a good pick. I know 6 million is very, very cheap, but for me, I would just still look to avoid him. Of course, the next 2 games are really, really good. But like I said, Caicedo's not that kind of player that's going to get a high volume of chances. And for that reason, because I believe it's not sustainable, because I believe he won't continue getting the goals and assists at this rate, for me, I would say avoid him. That's just my personal opinion. Alright guys, so next up, I want to speak on the Arsenal players, and more specifically, I want to speak about Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, and Victor Gyokeres. And first things first, I want to start off by talking about Bukayo Saka, because I know a lot of FPL managers are getting really, really frustrated with him as an FPL pick. It's another blank, right? He's blanked against Burnley, which is pretty shocking, to be honest. Yes, he had the chances, but still, he didn't deliver. Now, what is my honest opinion on Bukayo Saka? For me, I understand people wanting to sell him, but what I will say is I don't think he's a priority sell. If your team's in a really good space and you've got transfers to play around with and you've got no other major fires to put out, then fair enough. I understand selling Saka, right? That does make sense. But if you've got other fires to put out, I don't think Saka should be a priority transfer out. That is my personal opinion, especially looking at the upcoming fixtures that he does have. Now, in my opinion, right, I believe, looking at this Arsenal team, the way to go and the best free assets is just to go for the triple Arsenal defensive structure, right? I think that's the best way to go. Going for Raya, Gabriel and Timber. For me, that is my personal opinion. That's what I believe is the best free Arsenal players to go for. Some people are looking at selling Saka for like a Declan Rice, but me personally, if you're going to sell Saka, I'd rather just go to a triple Arsenal defensive structure. That's my personal opinion, because we can just see it, like Arsenal defensively are just absolutely ridiculous, man. They're getting clean sheets after clean sheets after clean sheets after clean sheets. So I just do think going to triple Arsenal defense is the way if you're going to sell Bukayo Saka. That's my personal opinion. I personally do prefer like a Timber over a Declan Rice. I know Declan Rice has looked really, really good. I'm not denying that, right? Declan Rice has looked absolutely fantastic so far this season. He's returned in so many games, right? He's really doing well. Like, he's quite decent for defensive contributions. He's got the attacking threat, and of course he takes some set pieces for Arsenal, and we know how strong Arsenal are from set pieces. But for me, I just still do prefer Yuri and Timber slightly over Declan Rice. So if I was going to sell Bukayo Saka, right, or if I was going to sell Victor Gyokeres, instead of going for a Declan Rice, I would much rather go for a Timber and go triple Arsenal defense. For me, that is the way to go, right? That is just my personal opinion. Now, what I will say on Bukayo Saka though, right, just to sort of flip the coin on his head and give it like an alternative argument, and just to play like devil's advocate for keeping Saka, for example, right, I would say, look, of course, he missed like 2 really big chances against Burnley. Now, I would say, of course, him missing that is very, very frustrating. However, I feel like it's a good and positive sign. I think if we can see Bukayo Saka continue to rack up these high quality, these big chances, the points will come. That is my honest opinion. So for me, looking at the fixtures that Arsenal have, you know, Sunderland away is not necessarily an easy fixture. I'm going to be honest, right? Sunderland away from home is quite tough. I think Sunderland at home is a lot better and it's slightly easier, but away at Sunderland, it's going to be a tough game. And I don't see Arsenal sort of, you know, winning this game 4-0 or 5-0, for example. So it could be, again, a low scoring Arsenal win. But what I will say is after that is Tottenham at home. I think Tottenham are absolutely horrific. Honestly, words cannot describe how bad Tottenham are as a team, in my opinion. I think Arsenal really do just... They really just punish Spurs and they win that game comfortably. So they got Sunderland away, they got Spurs at home, and then Chelsea away next as well. After that is Brentford and Aston Villa. I think the fixtures are okay, right? They're not like amazing fixtures, but they're not bad enough fixtures where I think Saka is a priority sell. But what the point I'm trying to make here is, if Saka is going to continue to get these big quality chances, then I believe the points will come, because I do believe Saka is still a quality player, right? I still believe more times than not, if Saka gets into those spaces again to score goals, to score those kind of goals in those from those positions, he will put the ball in the back of the net, right? That is my personal opinion. So yeah, I would say Saka right now it's like a don't sell yet, but don't buy category. But if your team's in a very, very good space and you've not got other fires to put out, then I would sell him, basically. So yeah, it's a frustrating one, I understand, but his underlying data is not too bad as well. That's something I also do want to touch on. Like, in terms of, like, since Saka has come back into the starting 11 for Arsenal, his underlying data that he's produced bad. Like, looking at the non-penalty expected goal involvement, you can see here is in the top 4, right? Only Gakpo, Enzo Fernandez and Salah are above Saka for non-penalty expected goal involvement, and this is from game week 6 to 10, right? Because in game week 6, that's when Saka got his first start coming back from injury, right? So since Saka got his first start coming back from injury, his underlying data is not too bad at all, and you can actually see it's better than Declan Rice, for example. But you know, Declan Rice is a lot cheaper, to be fair. Now, of course, Declan Rice so far this season has been really good for attacking returns. He's got 2 goals, 4 assists in the first 10 games. It's just a good return, and of course he's got the threat from set pieces as well. You know, he takes some of the set pieces, and we know how good and how strong Arsenal are from set pieces. So the attacking threat is there with Declan Rice, but as I said, I'd much rather rely on the clean sheet sort of potential with Arsenal and go for like another Arsenal defender than sort of rely on Declan Rice getting some attacking returns and possibly some defensive contributions. That's my personal opinion. It doesn't mean Rice is a bad pick, and you guys might disagree with what I'm saying, and that's completely fine, because I don't think it's the obvious thing to do, right? I feel like it is up for a debate whether to go for a third Arsenal defender or to go for Declan Rice, but for me, in my opinion, I would definitely say it's better to go for a third Arsenal defender. And that's just my personal opinion. I think Rice does look really, really good, and I think he's putting up some, you know, strong data considering, you know, his price point. You know, he's got 0.36 expected goal involvement per 90, which is really solid, and he's decent for defensive contributions as well. He's not too bad at all, man. He's got, you know, an average of 9.41 defensive contributions per 90, which is not too bad at all, especially for an Arsenal midfielder. And the thing is, the good thing about Declan Rice is that because Arsenal's so strong defensively, and because they get a lot of clean sheets, right? If he can get a game where he doesn't necessarily get an attack and return, but he picks up DEFCON and a clean sheet, you're looking at 5 points, and that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. That's like getting an assist for an attacker, right? For like let's just say someone like Semenyo, for example. If he gets an assist, right, you walk away from that game with 5 points. So that's not too bad. So I do like Declan Rice, right? I do like Declan Rice as a pick, but for me, like I said, I think triple Arsenal defense is the way to go. Quickly, just to touch on Victor Gyokeres, I will say that, yeah, for me, he came off at half time. Now, Arteta did say that there was like a slight injury there with Gyokeres, so he's definitely one to look out for. I would say, look, regardless whether he's fit or not, I think he's a sell. I know he scored against Burnley, which is great, but overall, I don't think he's worth 9 million. Overall, I don't think he's part of the best Arsenal triple up in your team. So I think him having this sort of small muscular injury is just sort of the just that little push you needed, really, just that inspiration you needed, really, just to go ahead and sell Victor Gyokeres, right? For me, he's a sell. Yeah, I don't think he's worth the money, and again, this sort of injury just sort of emphasizes now that, yeah, you kind of just need to sell Victor Gyokeres. That's my personal opinion. I think a lot of people are giving Gyokeres one last chance for this Burnley game. He got you the goal, he got you the 7 points. Now I think it's the correct time to move off Victor Gyokeres, because looking at the next game is Sunderland away, and to be honest with you, I don't think Sunderland away is this easy game that a lot of people think it is. It is actually a tougher game, especially because it's away from home. I think if it was Sunderland at home, I'd say it's a very, very good fixture, but away from home, it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different story. So for me, I just think Victor Gyokeres is definitely a sell. All right, guys, so next up, we do have Mohamed Kudus, and for me, in my opinion, this is a player that you need to sell, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Kudus is anywhere near close to being a good FPL pick, in my opinion, right? He still does have relatively high ownership as well. He's still got 30% ownership in the game, which is absolutely ridiculous. For me, I would say sell him, right? I don't think he's a good pick. First and foremost, the fixtures coming up for Tottenham are really, really tricky, right? They've got Manchester United at home, then Arsenal away, then after that is Fulham at home, then Newcastle away. I mean, the fixtures are tough, right? The only decent game there is Fulham at home, but yeah, other than that, the fixtures are really difficult. But for me, it's not just about the fixtures. I think even if the fixtures were good, I would still be saying to sell Kudus, because when I watch Spurs play, right, they are just shocking. I like, genuinely, guys, Spurs are one of the worst attacks in the league, I think, honestly. Like, when I watch Spurs, I'm seeing a team that looks so dysfunctional. I'm seeing a team that is just void of ideas, that has no real patterns of play when it comes to, you know, their attack. They don't really create a lot of chances. It's Kudus himself doesn't get into good goal scoring opportunities, doesn't get a high amount of service for him, and to be fair, he doesn't even create a lot of chances as well for his teammates. I just think Kudus is a really bad FPL pick, and I think he's playing in a really bad attacking team. I don't really know how Spurs are fifth in the Premier League, because for me, they are really getting lucky. I just think, again, like I said, when I watch Spurs play, it really is just bad. I mean, the rest of their attack, players like Richarlison, Kolo Muani, Xavi Simons, Mateus Tel, Odegaard, they're just not playing good. Brennan Johnson, their attack really is just, it's bad, right? It's bad. And I look at Kudus, and to be fair, look, he's got a decent amount of points this season, but as I keep saying, for me, Kudus has got very, very lucky, right? A lot of his points have come from like deflected goals, deflected assists. He is just a lucky, fraudulent FPL pick in my opinion, and he's definitely a player you want to sell. This does not look like a player that will get FPL points on a regular basis, right? For me, he's not worth the price tag. He's playing in a bad team, and I look at Kudus as a pick and I sit back and I think, what boxes does Kudus pick? Why are people still picking Kudus? Why do people have Kudus in the FPL team? And I'm someone that has him at the moment, but I am definitely going to sell him this week because, as I said, when I sit back, when I look at it, really, what boxes is Kudus ticking? Does he have good underlying data? No. Does he look threatening on the eye? No. Is he creating? Is he getting into good goal scoring positions? No. Has he got good form? No. Are the fixtures good? No. Like, Kudus isn't ticking any boxes whatsoever. For me, he's an easy sell. Yeah, honestly, I just don't like Kudus. I don't like the Spurs attack. They really are a bad footballing team at the moment, in my opinion. So yeah, for me, I would just sell Mohamed Kudus. It's simple as that. And there are a lot better options at his price point, whether it's Caicedo, whether it's Declan Rice, you know, these options here, whether it's even, you know, someone like Szoboszlai or a Jacobo Minte or a Dango Ouattara, for example, who we'll touch on later on this video. Like, for me, there are just better options to go for that are cheaper or at least the same price as a Mohamed Kudus. Even someone like Enzo Fernandez as well. How can I forget, right? So yeah, I would just sell Mohamed Kudus. He is nowhere near a good FPL pick in my opinion. Alright guys, so next up, I quickly wanted to speak on Kevin Schade and Dango Ouattara. I do think these two players are going slightly under the radar, and I do think they could offer some serious value. Both Dango Ouattara and Kevin Schade are massive differentials, but looking at some of their underlying data, looking at what I've seen from them on the eye and the fixtures coming up for Brentford, I do think they could be sort of underrated picks to go for, right? I do think potentially, if you wanted to gamble on a differential, buying Dango and buying Kevin Schade could be some interesting picks to go for. Now, listen, first things first, the underlying data for Dango and Schade is pretty decent. Starting off with Dango, as you can see here, right, in terms of big chances total, Dango does sit top or joint top this season, along with Enzo Fernandez for big chances total, which is really nice. You can also see Kevin Schade here as well. Has had 3 big chances total, not as much as Dango, which is interesting. In terms of shots inside the box, we can see again, Dango Ouattara is up there with 15 shots inside the box, and Kevin Schade as well is joint top with Dango with 15 shots inside the box. But what I will say is, because Dango's got more big chances, it shows you that he's getting his shots off in better positions inside the box, right? Because not every shot inside the box is necessarily a big chance, right? But we can see here Dango is getting his shots closer to goal compared to someone like Kevin Schade. Now, what I will say is, right, stylistically, when watching Brentford play, Kevin Schade definitely does suit the sort of tougher games for Brentford. So, for example, if Brentford are playing like a Chelsea, any like sort of pressing team, any team that likes to play a high line, whether it's like an Aston Villa or a Bournemouth, for example, even like a Manchester City, a Chelsea, so any sort of pressing team that likes to play with a high line, that's where Kevin Schade will really benefit, right? That's where he will get FPL points, in my opinion, because stylistically, Schade is like a transitional type of player. He's a very explosive player, a player with high pace, and Brentford, the way they set up against these high pressing teams is they like to hit them on transition, they like to hit them on the break. We've seen so many times in countless games where sort of Jordan Henderson might play a long pass over the top through to Kevin Schade, who typically does sit on the last man, right? So because of that, I would say stylistically, Kevin Schade does suit more of the teams that like to play a high pressing style of football. So maybe even like a Brighton, for example, right? That would also be a good game for someone like Kevin Schade. But listen, I think both Dango and Schade are really solid options to go for. I would say I kind of do prefer Dango, because I feel like in terms of big chances, he seems to get more big chances than someone like a Kevin Schade. Now, one thing I want to say as well is the fixtures coming up for Brentford are actually pretty good. Now, a lot of people are probably going to go for Thiago as their Brentford pick, which is fair enough, because I think Thiago also is a really good pick. He also takes penalties as well, looks really good for minutes. But yeah, if you wanted to go for a more of a differential pick, and I kind of just wanted to speak on Schade and Ouattara, because I do feel like they're, as I said, going slightly under the radar. 0.5% ownership, which is absolutely just insane. And I look at these fixtures, I look at what I've seen on the eye, I look at the underlying data, And I do think Dango could be a really good pick. And I don't think Game Week 11 is a bad entry point at all. Newcastle at home is not too bad. I think, look, Newcastle's a tough game away from home, but at home, not too bad. Then it's Brighton away again. This is the kind of game that would suit someone like Kevin Schade. As I said, I can imagine there'd be lots of space in behind for someone like Kevin Schade to score. But look, overall, right, the fixtures are good. It's Newcastle at home, Brighton away, Burnley at home. Of course, Arsenal is very, very tough, but after that, it's Spurs away, which is good. Leeds at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, Spurs at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home. Even me just looking at these fixtures, I didn't realise they were so good for this long. But I like them. I like them a lot. So I would definitely say, right, someone like Dango could be a good pick. The only issue I've got with like Dango, I think this issue doesn't really come with someone like Kevin Schade, because he does start and get decent minutes. But yeah, I think, look, Dango's minutes are a bit, in recent weeks they've been good, like 74 minutes, 90 minutes, 75 minutes. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. But we see here he got didn't start against City, 74 minutes against United. So his minutes have been a bit iffy this season, which is it's not ideal, but I do like him as a pick, Dango. I really do. I think Kevin Schade's minutes are a lot more consistent, a lot more 90-minute games. So Kevin Schade arguably could be the better pick because of his minutes, which is fair enough. But look, I like both picks. Of course, I like Thiago as well. Thiago is a really nice pick, and he's got the penalties as well. So Thiago's fantastic as well. Again, really good for minutes on penalties. And I just like the fixtures that Brentford do have. So I would say, look, even Thiago is still quite a differential as well, 8.2% ownership. But yeah, I really just wanted to touch on Dango and Schade, because I do think they can offer some serious value. That is my personal opinion. So yeah, let me know what you guys do think of that. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you do smash a big thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. But yeah, thank you guys for the amazing support, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, I'm out. Peace.